In this video, I'm going to show you the first few days of my midterm exam prep. I prepped for 2 weeks and I used a bullet journal to track my progress. The first thing I did was update my bullet journal. I had to write something in my homework spread, and then I began outlining my midterm spread. I had penciled everything in, but I still needed to add color and neaten it up a bit. And you don't need to have a bullet journal or make it look like this to have an effective study schedule. Just make sure you're planning out what you're going to study and tracking what you have done. So this is a day later after I had worked on the spread at school. I started coloring in the decorations, which were kind of a winter theme, and that was all I did aesthetic-wise for this. After that, all I did was update what I studied each day. I studied 3 classes a day, and I have 6 classes, so every other day rotating. This was a 2-week study schedule, so I started pretty early so I would feel less stressed. This is the first actual study thing I did. So I took a review sheet that was given to me by my social studies teacher. It has vocab, important events, and people, and questions. If your teachers give you any resources like this, definitely use them. But if they don't, just remember that you should be identifying important terms, people, events while you read. And if you have homework with questions, pick one question that summarizes each section from the homework or write your own and use those to review for midterms or finals. This was really helpful. I answered everything I knew first, and then I answered everything I didn't know using my notes. I think I did those in a different color another day so that I knew to go back to those things, or I starred them. I do one of those 2 things. I like to write this by hand first because it helps retention, but I also do Q&A and Quizlet type things with this sheet. I should also mention, this specifically targets the last section we did before midterms. We got another sheet with a lot more questions and a lot more terms when it was time to focus on midterms only, but this was also part of that study process. So next, I moved on to literature. I'm just flipping through my notes here, but I did Q&A with my mom and created my own Quizlet sets. You can do both or one of those things. Next, I did some science homework that doubled up as review for our periodic table. We learned how to use the table and some element symbols, so this just reminded about different groups and families and properties and things like that. I had already colored and filled in the notes at class. I just had to glue it in and do a header. You don't have to do a header in calligraphy. Just do something that makes your notes look nice so you actually want to look at them. So this notebook you're seeing here is my interactive notebook. We use it as a whole class. I also keep a binder with targeted information for the end of each unit, and I prefer to study from that, but I use this too. Next, I did the same thing I did with literature with my science interactive notebook. Next, I did some math review questions from our textbook and old homework. I didn't actually film doing the questions, but I filmed the beginning and the end. I believe this was filmed at a different time in the week, but it's just more review questions. It's always good to use old questions you used in class because you already have the correct answers, but you can rewrite it on a new sheet and work it again. I star the ones I get wrong, so I remember to do that. So after each day, I would write down the 3 classes I focused on, how long I focused on them, what I studied, and what I needed to study. This was really helpful, so I understood what I had done and what I had left to do, also which classes I was spending more time on. This system worked really well for me. If I were to do this again, I would probably add more sections for the weekend right before midterms, and I might not do so much early on. I hope this video has helped you feel prepared for your exams. If I could give you 2 tips for your first time, I would say begin preparing early. It's always better to know too much than not enough, and to have a schedule. Even if you don't stick to it strictly, it's good to have time blocked out for each class. You don't have to make it an even split. Some classes need more time than others, but keep in mind what day each exam is. Have fun studying, and I hope you succeed on your exams.